Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day. In this video, I'm going to show you how I make my vegan sweet potato and beetroot brownies. So let's get started. For this recipe, you're going to need 600 grams of sweet potato. So that's what I've got here. I had to cut one in half just to get exactly 600 grams. But now I'm just going to peel both of them and chop them into small cubes. I'm going to get these cubes roughly the same size because we're going to roast them in a minute and we want them all to cook at the same rate. So it's quite hard, the sweet potato. If you've used it before, you'll know this, so just take your time cutting it. You don't want to lose any fingers. This is what my sweet potato looked like after I'd finished chopping it up. And then I'm just going to place it onto a tinfoil lined baking sheet and set it to the side while I work on the beetroot. Here I've got 300 grams of beetroot, and again I'm just going to peel these as I did with the sweet potato. You might want to wear gloves at this point because the juice from the beetroot is quite colourful and it will stain your hands. It does wash off, but some people might not want to have to go through that, so you can just wear gloves for this. And it's quite hard, so again, take your time, work slowly, not in a rush. So just as with the sweet potato, we're going to chop this beetroot into even sized pieces, and I'll show you what mine look like in just a second. Here they are on the tinfoil lined baking sheet, and then I'm going to put both in the oven at 180 degrees for 50 minutes. After that time, both of the vegetables are roasted nicely and become slightly softer. I then placed each into a separate container and blended with a stick blender until they turn to a smooth puree. You can see here the sweet potato is extremely thick, which is what we want for a nice sticky and fudgy brownie. So I'm just placing the sweet potato into the mixing bowl that I'm going to use to mix all my ingredients together. So do the sweet potato first, and then here we've got the beetroot. Again, this is really dark red colour, which is going to be great. It's going to make the brownies look super chocolatey. We are going to add some cocoa powder later, but this really helps drive that colour forward. And here I've got 20 grams of brown sugar. This is the only sweetness outside of the vegetables that we're going to add to this, which is quite good. It makes them really healthy, I think. It's mainly just vegetable, flour and milk, so just 20 grams of brown sugar. I use light brown sugar for mine, but you could also substitute this for stuff like honey or maple syrup, something like that, just something sugary and sweet, just to make it a little bit sweeter. Here I've got 50 grams of cocoa powder. This is vegan cocoa powder, so the whole recipe is fully vegan. Just going to add that in and mix it together, and watch how the colour changes here. We've gone from like a red to a more chocolatey brown. This mixture is far too thick at the moment, so I'm going to add 200 millilitres of soy milk in small portions, just gradually mixing it together until we get a much more fluid mixture. This is what it looked like after I added all 200 millilitres of soy milk. After that, I then added 100 grams of plain flour in two 50 gram batches. Just gently folding this in. We want to develop the gluten in this flour as little as possible so we get a nice chewy fudgy brownie instead of something more tough. So I'm just slowly folding this in together, and this is what it looks like at the end. We've got like a nice dropping consistency off the spoon, but it's still quite thick. I then transferred this into a square baking dish. I'll put the dimensions in the description down below. I then baked at 180 degrees for 25 minutes. After baking, I removed the brownies from the tin and then left them to cool for about 10 minutes before I chopped them into the pieces you can see here. I'm just going to bring one up to the camera here so you can see the texture. They're really fudgy, super thick, but they've also got a bit of a spring to them. I quite like the texture. It's a little bit different from a traditional brownie, but it's still super fudgy, and that's what we're really going for. And the colour I think is perfect. And this is the side shot. You can see them all lined up nicely. Got a nice height to them. They're all super fudgy and thick, and they're really satisfying to eat. There's a lot of weight behind it. So this whole batch I think is, what does it add up to? Like 1.4 kilograms. There's a lot of brownie there, but because it's all just mainly vegetable, milk and flour, there's the only bad things in there, I guess you could say, the 20 grams of brown sugar and the 50 grams of cocoa powder. It's exceptionally healthy, I think. It's mainly just vegetable, right? So I don't feel guilty at all eating these, and they taste great. They're not as sweet as a normal brownie, but that's to be expected. You could always bump up the brown sugar or honey or maple syrup, whatever you're using, if you wanted a sweeter brownie. So I'll show you an alternative serving here that I quite like to do. This tasted really good. So here I've taken one brownie cube, placed it on this little dish here, and I've drizzled over some maple syrup, which I quite like, and then I've topped it with some Maldon flaky salt. The maple syrup and salt really help bring out the flavours of the brownie. And I still don't feel too guilty eating this because it feels so healthy with all that vegetable in there. I'd highly recommend trying this out if you're interested. You could easily substitute out the plain flour for rice flour, and this would also be a gluten-free brownie. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd love to see pictures if you do make it. Thank you very much for watching.